So I've distributed copies of the minutes of the meeting, annual general meeting last year, and I'll ask somebody to move that we accept those. Thank you. Somebody second it?
I can second it.
Thank you. The most interesting comment I might make is that you will notice from the minutes that Kylie was our speaker last year as well, and talking about the peer support program, among other things. But we've invited Kylie back because of the changes that have happened since our last year's meeting. So I take it everybody's happy to approve those minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Matters arising we'll deal with as they arise during the meeting. Correspondence, we've had quite a bit of correspondence with MS about the restructure, which Kyle is going to talk about, concerning the changes to the peer support program and to the other advisory services. I have to say, I think the communication process to the MS community about the changes has been very poor, unfortunately. It was interesting, I wrote to John Lewinsky and said to him that considering we represent some 1,200 or so of their clients, I was disappointed that I hadn't received any advice from John regarding the changes. John's response was, well, he'd written to the advisory committee. And I have to say, I didn't think that was a very satisfactory response. So there's been a bit of communication between us and MS, John, about the communication process. Correspondence regarding Kylie's presentation. More recently, I got correspondence from Nicola Beswick, who's chair of the Pro Bono Financial Advice Network. And as I understand it, they're no longer providing that service through MS. And so Nicola has asked PWMS whether we're prepared to advertise their services on our website and in our newsletter. And I just wanted to get a bit more information from Nicola about the service. We didn't want to advertise something which might lure somebody into seeking financial advice and then finding they had to pay for it. And Nicola has assured me that's not the case, but she's going to come and talk to the committee about the arrangements. And then I think, assuming all goes well, we will take up her request and advertise it on our website, etc. There's been, we unfortunately received resignation from Chris Platford, who was the formal secretary of people with MS, and he hasn't yet been replaced. So we are looking for new committee members, particularly somebody who might take over the role of secretary. It's not the minute secretary. We have Harpreet over here who graciously accepted the role of minute secretary, but the formal secretary role is unfilled at the moment. And there's been some correspondence with MS about the gym. I would comment that we're disappointed that the gym is not being made more use of than It should be. The correspondence I've had with MS about the gym concerns the availability of group programs, and certainly when I last wrote to MS about it, they were not offering group programs. I was invited to set up my own group and bring them along, but there was no group program or group program fee structure on offer at that stage, and I don't know whether that's changed. And some correspondence with the art community about the art show, with the decision by MS to put the art show so that it's online only this year. Well, we're disappointed by the fact that it's online only, and recent discussions with the Community Engagement Council, we've talked about the possibility of suggesting that instead of having something that's online only, they might have a display here and a display at Lidcombe and a display in Hobart and a display in Canberra. So they've got various venues around the country where a simultaneous display could be put up, and it could be put on online as well. But we think there is a space for real visual presentation of the actual art, so that people can come and look at it. I won't say touch it, because you're not supposed to touch it, but you know, to be visually in contact with it at least. So there's been quite a bit of correspondence, and a lot of it has been with MS Plus. So I'll move that as a report on correspondence. Would somebody like to second that? Thanks, Salt. Does anybody have any questions about correspondence?
Did you get any response about this art suggestion?
Not so far. The discussions are continuing. Let's put it that way. I mean, not this year. No, certainly this year it's been. It's an online thing. You haven't had any response either. So the council are responding as well. Yeah. I think it's something that we can work on during the year, with the hope that next year we'll return to at least some physical presentation and an online presentation as well. I mean, I think there is definitely a space for an online presentation, because there are lots of people who can't get to the venues.
But I think the mixing is good. I remember, I'm not that kind of art person, but when the display was here, I remember there was many people going through, and it was actually pretty nice to go through and see the real pictures. Online is, everybody like online everything now, but the screen is not the same like you see on IRL. The painting, whatever other art, is completely different, especially other art than painting, like 3D art or sculpture or something like that. It's not the same. Like,
no, I quite agree. No.
Anyway.
It's also about bringing people together.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'd certainly like to see more opportunity for people to come together. I mean, the venue is here. It's not really being used for people with MS, apart from those people who are coming in for, consultations or something of that nature.
Nigel, excuse me. I'm just realising there's something I would like to raise, and it's probably we should raise it.
No, go ahead.
It's in relation to carers.
Yes.
And
so Kate
Barbara. Carers are, as you know, a very important part of those of us that have MS. And you're aware of all the peer support groups, things like dinner groups and whatnot, that are there for people with MS. There has been a push to start similar things for carers of people with MS. And my husband Mike, who, apologies he can't come today, with the renovations done, which was supposed to be finished last week, so he's home checking that done. He's actually taken on a role whereby he's offered his time to run a carers dinner group once a month. It was going to be advertised by Kim and through a whole lot of other people, but unfortunately, as we know, they've all now no longer with MS. And it's sort of, nothing's really, there's no noise about it, I guess. And we're trying to get some awareness out there of this facility. Now, Mike has 3 people at the moment that are interested, and we generally get 1 or 2 of them a month that come to this dinner. And interestingly enough, Mike has also been accepted as joining the AM.
It's the MSA one.
Yes, which is the Australian MS Research Group? No.
It's for MSA, for MS Australia. Yep.
So he's been accepted as the carer representative. So do we want to... yes, so he's been accepted as the representative on behalf of the carers across Australia. So just wondering whether the carers dinner situation might be something that could be promoted also through our newsletter.
I'm sure we're happy to do that. I don't know, you might like to refer to that later when you're talking.
Oh, sorry, Carly, you may have been going to speak about this.
I wasn't, but I will.
Okay.
Just remind me if I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's not in my notes.
No, thanks, Kate. Yeah, now look, if you like to email me something that you'd like to include, we're happy to do that. Yeah, certainly.
I'll talk with Carly about it beforehand, but I certainly will do that. Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, welcome. Michelle? Anybody else, any questions they'd like to raise or issues they'd like us to take up in correspondence? If not, I'll hand over to Anne for a Treasurer's report.
The financial year this year has been quite stable. We obtained a grant for our 2024 conference. Unfortunately, we had to pay back $2,107 plus GST because we underspent, and I think that's mainly because of lack of numbers. So we've got to build the numbers for our conference and do something different. Second item, our auditor has decided to retire, which is quite devastating because it's hard to find an auditor.
So good too.
Sorry?
It was very good, Tony.
Yes. He did say as a last resort, ring him. And I think it will be my last resort because he's been meeting me for coffee. So the financials, we started the year with $23,818.58. We had a grant, and from the conference we got some money in from participants, plus $8,117. And less payments, we paid out $10,241. So the bank account on the 30th of June 2024 was $21,693. Since then it's built up a little bit because we've got some more grants, but that's at the end of the financial year. And that's it. Thank you. My first year as treasurer. It balances well.
Does anybody have any questions of Anne? If not, would somebody like to second that? Thanks, Kate. Yes, fortunately, we've been very successful over the years in getting grants for our conferences. We missed out the year before last, I don't know why, but last year we got a grant again, and we've got a grant again for conference next year. And Anne and I are working on the possibility of linking this with the other conference. After all, we've got Kylie giving a presentation, so we can regard it as a seminar. And that way, hopefully, we can ensure that we don't have to repay any money to them.
Which gives me the shakes to read.
But we also applied for a grant to assist with peer support services. which we applied for, what, 3 months ago? And the only advice that we've got so far is that they've received a large number of applications and that they hadn't yet sorted through them and decided who was going to get them or not. I don't know, does MS apply for grants to assist the peer support program, do you know?
Yeah, yes, technically yes.
And successfully, one hopes?
The last 2 were unsuccessful.
Okay. That's surprising in a way. You know, one would have thought that it would be a dead cert. So, can I show of hands for all acceptance of Anne's report? Thank you. My report, and there are copies up there of my report. It's been an eventful year, been big changes to the NDIS. I'm not lucky enough to be supported by NDIS, so I'm not able to comment on the changes firsthand. Much of which I've read about it has been sensationalised, as you would expect. But it seems to me the aim of the changes has mainly been to reduce the opportunities for claimants or providers to take advantage of flexibility in the system. But I'd be very interested to hear from any people with MS who have been disadvantaged or feel they've been disadvantaged by the changes.
I have.
So, I mean, do you want to, I'll come back to that. There have also been big changes at MS Plus, downscaling of its engagement and wellbeing services, which I understand have included discontinuation of the social work advisor service and the finance advisor service. I say understand because the information that's come out has been pretty scant on what has actually been discontinued. The peer support program has changed. 2 of the coordinators, Kim here in Victoria and Angela in Tasmania, made redundant, and the program shifts to basically an online service only, with the program being run by Katrina from Sydney. But Kylie will tell us more about that.
I just out of interest, I saw Kim a couple of months ago at a carer session in Moonee Valley. I was nice to see her. I think she's doing a really good job.
Good, good. We held a very successful conference in May with 3 top-class speakers. We had Helmut Butzkoven, Head of Neuroscience at Monash University and Foundation Director of Neurology at Alfred Health. He talked about the role of vitamin D in MS, about how it appears to reduce the occurrence of MS, but it doesn't seem to have any impact on the progression of MS once it's occurred, which is an interesting dichotomy. He also spoke about a new type of MS lesion which has been discovered. I mean, I don't think it's a new type of MS lesion in its occurrence. It's just that it hadn't been recognised that this type of MS lesion existed previously. And the significant thing about it is that it appears to somehow or other be involved in the continual worsening or progression of MS, even though there are no new attacks. So it would appear that it probably has a major role in progressive MS as distinct to relapsing and remitting MS. Once again, there's a lot more research needed to work out exactly what role it plays, and I suppose why it occurs in some people and not in everybody who has MS. And finally, he talked about the fact that people with MS are living longer, and emphasised the importance of people with MS recognising that they are just as susceptible to the diseases which affect other people in the community. We are just as susceptible, or perhaps more susceptible, to things like flu and RSV and COVID and shingles. And shingles was one he mentioned in particular, and how important it is that we make sure we take advantage of the vaccinations that are available against those sort of diseases, because if we get shingles, it probably affects us more than it affects other people in the community because of our compromised immune system in the first place.
We are proof that healthy living gives the pluses, yeah?
Yes,
We
yes.
prove that healthy living, that probably on diet, most of them try different kind of diet, but still probably more healthy diet than most people diet. Like we try to exercise, we try to whatever, take other, as you mentioned, that's vaccination stuff. It seems to be working.
Yes, yes. We had Andrew Potter and Andrew Giles. Andrew Potter is advocacy coordinator for MS Australia, and Andrew Giles is the executive officer of the Neurological Alliance of Australia. And they talked about the work about lobbying, about the work that those two organisations do, lobbying government and advocating in the community so that awareness of MS is at the highest possible level. Unfortunately, some of you may be aware that Andrew Giles has announced he is retiring. So he's in the process of retiring now. I'm not sure when he finishes, but I suspect it's probably the end of this calendar year. He's done a fantastic amount of work, first for a long time working purely for MS Plus, and latterly as the foundation coordinator for the Neurological Alliance. A couple of other significant things. You're all aware, of course, that we've had an Olympic year, and you're probably all aware that there have been quite a significant number of people with MS who've had, made real achievements and a real presence on the prize winner stage in the Paralympics. And just to name a few, Emily Petricola, who Paralympic cyclist, won several gold medals. Lena Nielsen, a British athlete, and her sister, both took part in the Olympics. British sprinter Ali Smith, an Australian Paralympics competitor and wheelchair rugby competitor, Sarah Adam, Australian, and Amira Lee, an Australian archer. And she uses her archery platform to advocate for people with MS within the community. I think it's fantastic that people with MS take part, and that it's recognised that people with MS are taking part. I'd like to comment on something disturbing that I read recently in the MS News about the European Commission fining Teva Pharmaceuticals $500 million for effectively trying to prevent MS treatment drugs getting onto the market. It's the first occasion that I'm aware of such a thing. Now, Teva is the developer of Copaxone, and they held a patent for the distribution of Capaxone, which expired in 2015. What the European Community has charged them with is, after their patent expired, they apparently used some other, I think, fake patents to try to prevent competitor companies from putting lower cost generic versions of Capaxone onto the market. I mean, it's a pretty dirty trick. Anyway, as I said, the Commission has fined Teva $500 million.
Or they can afford it.
Oh, they probably can. It's probably not a huge amount, but hopefully it's a big enough fine to deter other people from doing the same sort of thing.
But it is gonna fuel conspiracy theories about these pharmaceutical companies not interested to finding a cure for us.
Absolutely.
And probably, unfortunately, not to want to offend anybody, this is Israeli company, so Jewish people gonna be even more hated because of this stuff, unfortunately, again. So it's not, they didn't do any good to anybody, to be honest, yeah? And I'm just wondering why the greed is so big to make this kind of
Yeah. Unfortunate. I'd like to thank the committee for their support during the year, Alison and Roger as vice chairmanship, Aldo for the work that he does on the website and Facebook page, which is fantastic, Zolt for the newsletter, thank you, Anne as treasurer, and Michelle as recently retired treasurer, and who have I missed? Andrea and Martin and Harpreet as minute secretary, and Chris, of course, as the secretary recently retired. And I'll ask you to join with me in giving them all a round of applause. We meet once a month, most months, and we mostly meet online, on Zoom. We run a conference and this seminar, annual general meeting each year, produce 3 newsletters each year, maintain a web page and a Facebook page. We lobby governments, state and federal, and MS+. And we're looking for more committee members. So if any of you know anybody who might be potential committee members, just encourage them to join up, please. There isn't an enormous amount of work, but we can all feel proud of the role that we play in helping to make sure that services are available for people with MS. And we're also looking, as Anne said, for a new auditor. So if any of you have any contacts with auditors, or somebody who might potentially be an auditor for us, please let us know. That's the end of my report. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any questions or any issues they'd like to raise. If not, I'll ask somebody to second acceptance of my report. Thank you.
Nigel, did you want me to explain why I believe I'm disadvantaged about my year?
Yes, please do.
I have quite an extensive plan, which I'm very fortunate I can't spend all of it. The areas that they want me to spend it in, if I had 300 more hours a week, I couldn't possibly spend the money. I currently do 3 exercise programs a week. I use incontinence products. I use other things that I claim for. But the biggie for me has always been remedial massage. I've been having remedial massage for over 20 years, just to help me with my scar tissue when I was self-injecting, and he keeps me well. Unfortunately, remedial massage has been withdrawn, and I have still
Been withdrawn completely?
Yep.
Yeah.
I cannot get it. I can claim it on my health insurance, but I get $20 of time back for a session. I think that's $160 a year I get back, so that's $132 every month, and I get $20 back for.
Can I tell
Yeah.
you work around how to make a workaround? Find a physio.
Yes, I appreciate that, but they do not do the same as remedial massage. I have had physio where they, push things around a bit, and they might do a little bit of.
You have to find a physio who doing the good massage because it's possible. I doing that stuff.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I know it's not easy to find it, but you can find it if you're looking up. You should find it because. I'll be honest. I'm doing that stuff, and this is working.
I suggest we talk about that afterwards. Yes.
I think there are 2 points down there. One is a workaround, which is what you're talking about, Martin. And the other one is the sort of like a pointed principle that remedial massage was a service that was being supported.
Yeah,
And
that's
now
like,
it's being
I agree. Yeah,
withdrawn.
yeah, that's the
And the
point.
point there is that NDIS no longer recognises the value of remedial massage for people with MS. That is the key point.
Yes, yes,
And
indeed.
I think we need to recognise that.
Yeah, workaround is
Maybe-
between us only.
maybe
Yeah,
kind of-
the main point.
Yeah.
And therefore the key point here is how do we address it with the NDIS? I want to raise, if I might, something very similar. My wife used to get psychologist support, and the reason is that MS is sort of like a continually changing issue for people with MS. And so for people with MS, dealing with this continued change actually requires a bit of support. As carers, we can provide support for our respective parties with physical stuff, with exercise, with all sorts of stuff. But when it comes down to psychological care and support, dealing with these constant changes, we're not qualified.
You don't have it? You don't have psychological, your wife doesn't have it, psychological support?
The point I'm making is that it was there in the previous plans, and now it has been totally withdrawn.
Oh,
Totally withdrawn.
because it's
And
still on the
with-
DIS.
Withdrawn for all types of conditions or just for MS?
I can't speak for more widely. All I know, and from what I'm hearing, is that people with MS are no longer given psychologist support.
No, I have it. I
And there
have
is,
it.
you still have.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah.
With your existing,
Yep.
with a new plan or existing plan?
No, existing plan.
And when is it up for renewal?
Well, it got rolled over from last year into this year. And it's an agreed rate with the psychologist, and that's in writing. I mean,
That's very good.
it's
That's
an
very
agreement,
consistent.
but you
Yeah.
must have.
Probably you lost it by
So-
accident or something like
So
that. Because it
I
was,
think people that are having their plans rolled over, basically they're having whatever they had before carried through.
No, mine was rolled over, and it was, I got the email on the 3rd of October, was it?
And it was-
Telling me that no service was no longer available. Mine rolled over in May.
So it was rolled over in May, and then come October, the remedial massage was
Correct.
withdrawn.
They've withdrawn it, yeah.
Okay. My
That's
understanding is that as part of the NDIS review that's recently taken place and all the changes that have been announced, psychologist support, maybe remedial massage and perhaps other things are being withdrawn as part of their broader cost-cutting exercises. In my wife's case, her overall plan has also been reduced, but that's a separate matter.
What I was told about the remedial masseurs was during COVID, they were, my masseur told me, is that they were removed from allied health and put into a different category, along with my therapist and a few other
Yeah.
similar type of practitioners, and therefore they no longer fall under that umbrella, which is.
They've got to have a certain number. I do a remedial massage, and I get mine covered, but it's only a $75 fee she charges.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, and I get it.
Is she a
every
physio,
month.
I wonder?
Sorry?
I wonder if she's a
She's a
physio.
myotherapist, yeah?
Myotherapist.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and $75 a month I get, yeah.
it is,
Yeah,
it is
interesting.
interesting how inconsistent it is, and as well, yes.
So it's just,
Like that
I
kind of
think it's,
stuff.
yeah, depending on how your plan is worded and everything as well.
Well,
Yeah.
mine actually is in my plan and I need this, but they've withdrawn it.
See, a lot of people were getting gym memberships knocked back, but now they've reinstated them because, yeah, because they know that it's part of the wellness program. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Unfortunately,
it's also got to include wellness in the wording.
Yeah,
And if you
that's
put
all about the
wellness-
wording, isn't it, with the
Yeah.
agendas?
Yeah.
It's very interesting, I think the point
Alison,
Martin is
Alison.
making is a degree of inconsistency.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
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 yeah.
big inconsistency. Yeah. I think it's starting with these 4 goals. You've got 4 goals on the beginning of your plan, and if you wording these 4 goals properly, you can get a lot, or you can get very little. Yes, because only the proper keywords have to be on the
It's all about the
first
wording.
wording. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, Alison.
Just a thought, we're not going to solve it here, but is there something that PWMS, whether in conjunction with even MS Plus, that we can look at things for an advocacy, who we can talk to, and a plan going forwards?
I reckon yes, because in MS, muscle spasticity, all the stuff is very big problem.
Yeah, no, but
So all the like the services like this wellness gym, massages stuff are very important for us actually. Yes.
yes, so we need to find a way to help people like Kate, like Harpreet's wife, that
That service
whether
has
it's
to
the
keep going.
wording or whether we can help them get their plans reinstated. And I don't know what the answer is, but so we're not going to have it now, but
MS Plus
something
supposed
we
to have
can think about.
support
We can talk to
coordinator.
MS Plus about how when they're doing their NDIS plans, if they've got any suggestions. I don't know if you have a support coordinator,
I
Kate.
do, and she told me, it's one of the ladies here,
Yep.
she told me there's nothing they can do.
Well,
No,
I
And that
think,
was,
I
that was
think,
back in October, so.
yeah, no, I think
no.
we've got to push back.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
that's through other things, I think
Well,
that is the way forward for all people.
And certainly MS Australia and the Neurological
Yes.
Alliance are 2 organisations that I think we should get on side with, or we
Absolutely.
should get them on side to make sure that, well, they probably already are, but let's see what we can do.
They've got more avenues, they know
Yeah,
other,
yeah.
maybe better ways to deal with this and help just ordinary people get what they need to live well.
And that's the point, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Living well.
So maybe we can work around
sounds
there.
good.
And also, I'd ask, as I said before, if any of you having problems or think you're having problems or know of anybody else who's associated, particularly anybody with MS, get them to provide us with information so that we can build up a case.
Years ago, I tried to get the NDIS to talk with us directly so we could actually come up with the proper questionnaire that MS could use, because of the way there was no consistency with the way MS was asking questions. They didn't line up with the questions in the NDIS manual. Yeah, and so you went through MS to come up with a range of questions and answers, but they didn't line up with the questions and answers in the NDIS manual, and it just didn't make sense.
Harpreet.
Just a comment, I mean, some of the feedback I've been hearing is that the people that review your plans in NDIS are not necessarily familiar or trained to understand MS.
Oh, I'm sure that's right, yes.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the reasons why there's so many inconsistencies in the various plans for people with MS. And I'm wondering whether that's something that needs to be maybe discussed, maybe.
But I suspect that's common across most diseases. I mean, you're lucky if the person who's dealing with your application, if you like, understands the disease that you're talking about.
May I suggest something? Because if MS Plus is like MS organization, and they've got support coordinators now here, they have to have this, I don't know whatever, how many is the support coordinators here. They have to be very well trained how to push through NDIS to get for MS people what they want. So it's easy to train that kind of, at least 4 people here or whatever, then thousands of people around the country, but at least these 4 good support coordinators, let's say, let's solve many problems actually. But when I'm hearing that they're saying, oh, you can't do nothing, which is very blunt answer, because I know if you get a letter from a health professional about whatever crap you want, you get it, because this is letter from health professional. Yeah? So I asking my neurologist to write letter that I would like swim, gym, whatever, and NDIS can discuss with that stuff because health professional wrote that letter. Yeah? If they reject it, I can go to the court that will be gathered and win easily. So this is so easy solution. I don't understand why people not using that stuff. I don't know. I'm not the smartest guy on the earth, and especially support coordinator here who saying that we can't do nothing about that one is very disappointing.
Well, that sounds as though that's so your own advisors locally, who I imagine is another significant and important part here. If you're, I mean, I don't have NDIS, so I don't fully understand the process, I must admit. But
Nor does anybody else.
I have enough annoyance about the fact that I was too old when NDIS came in to qualify for it. With that, I will close the formal annual general meeting part of the process and invite Kylie to come up and give her presentation. Now, Kylie was expecting that there would be it would be possible to have an online presentation, but that unfortunately isn't the case. But Kylie's going to wing it.
Wing it. That's okay. You do have a copy, Nigel. So
I do.
he'll
That's
send
right.
it out.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I put photos in it. There's a photo of me going up a pole at the camp, giant swing. So you're missing out.
No, you've got one of these.
I do. Am I
Yeah.
on? Are you happy? Yep. Of course, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners, traditional custodians of the land that we're on here, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and of course extend that to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that are in the room today. Reduced isolation, increased sense of belonging, and an improved adherence to healthy behaviours. Just 3 of the benefits of peer support and the reason I've been invited to come and speak with you today. Obviously I did speak with you last year, so I've switched it up a bit and made it a little bit different. So if you do look back over the video from last year, it'll be different to the video today. So about me, I'm Kylie Osborne, Senior Manager of Community and Partnerships, and have been with MS Plus for 2 years now. A little bit about the programs that I oversee, and then the day in and day out working day for me. So I oversee the Aged Care Volunteer Visitor Scheme, which is a beautiful federally funded program where we match volunteers with older people on home care packages and in aged care who are at risk of social isolation or loneliness. Peer support, obviously, which I'll talk about at length in a sec. The Ambassador Program, and some of you will be involved in that, I'm sure. That is where we have people with lived experience of MS going out and speaking with community groups. The Service and Clinic Partnerships, so our relationship with the major clinics and health professionals. Health professional education. Our engagement activities, such as some of our information sessions or our camps, for example. Community programs, so all of those online education type programs that we run. I'm also supporting the nursing team and Plus Connect at the moment as well. So a busy day in and day out for me. Fundamentally, for those that might be new to MS Plus, I don't think that any of you are, but maybe people that will be listening to this, I just wanted to do a quick overview of the programs and services that we provide. So everything that I just listed is the programs that are running in the client engagement and wellbeing. So all of the things in that team I'm supporting. As Nigel mentioned, the social worker program has been wrapped up. as has the financial assistance program. They're the only two programs that finished up a little earlier this year, and everything else is continuing pretty much business as usual. On the other side, the other team is consumer-directed care, and we have our wellbeing centres, which you're in one. We obviously offer allied health services, which we've touched on, NDIS, and residential services. So the wellbeing centres, we have 4 here in Victoria: Footscray and Blackburn. Hobart, we have one. Lidcombe, we have had one for a very long time, and the new building will be opened imminently, and I'm looking forward to getting up there and seeing that. And then, of course, the location at Gloria Macero House in ACT. At the wellbeing centres, we have a gym, as Nigel mentioned, where we obviously offer individual and small group programs. Our allied health services, NDIS support coordination out of most of our venues, and then peer support at some of them as well. So I'm here to talk about peer support, so let's just jump into that. So there are a million definitions of peer support, and I think it's really important then, particularly when we're talking through a period of change, that we remember why we're doing what we're doing, and that was something that I looked at a lot this year. Why are we doing it? How do we do it responsibly and efficiently? And how do we continue to support people? So in looking for a definition for peer support, I had to find one that's appropriate because there's a million different definitions, and I found this one from Thompson in 2022. Peer support is a socially driven intervention involving people with lived experience of a condition, helping others to manage that same condition, potentially offering a sense of connectedness and purpose and experiential knowledge to manage that disease. And for those who are involved in peer support, I'm hoping that that does pretty much reflect what happens in either your group or one-on-one experience or appealing, for example. Our peer support program, whilst it's overseen by me, it is managed by peer program lead Katerina Mujali. Kat, you will know her by. She's responsible for linking people that want to join peer support to a program and making sure those programs are running, to provide support to our volunteers as needed, to onboard and train our volunteers, and to facilitate the peer links. She's a very, very busy coordinator based in New South Wales, and she oversees all 4 of our jurisdictions, so peer support in ACT, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, and doing just an outstanding job at doing so. I'm very pleased to see that we continue to deliver the same 3 elements of that program we always have, which is fantastic, and that's testament to the amazing work that she's doing. But coming back to why do we do peer support? Why do we invest peer support? Why are we also passionate about it? And as I said at the top, there were 3 good reasons why we do it. But I think it's important to connect this back to why, and that's that eliminating or reducing social isolation and loneliness. Ultimately, we want people to come together, be connected in some way, or feel that validation, and have an opportunity to reflect or to learn from each other. So if we think about social connection and the importance of it, it's 16% of Australians have experienced or do experience loneliness, with it increasing in younger adults and a slight decrease in those over 65s. We also know that men tend to feel that more than women, and are slightly less likely to reach out. To mitigate that, there are things that we can do. Volunteer work or engaging in group activities like an art group or a chess club or whatever takes your fancy, and obviously paid work are all different ways that we can reduce social isolation or that feeling of loneliness. There is some suggestion in the research. It's very hard to measure the outcomes of peer support, but it is, and the social connection, but it is suggested that peer support programs specifically for MS patients, targeting specific behaviour, coping strategies and self-management techniques do improve psychological functioning and their quality of life. An estimated 1 in 4 people experience social isolation, and between 5 to 15% of adolescents experience loneliness. There's a large body of research showing that social isolation and loneliness have a serious impact on our physical well-being as well as our mental health. The effects of social isolation and loneliness on mortality is comparable to that of other diseases such as obesity or risk factors such as smoking and physical inactivity. It's very important, therefore, that we remain connected. Social isolation refers to the lack of social relationships or infrequent social contact. And some of the health outcomes as a consequence of that can include physical decline, and potentially even early death, poor mental health, biological impacts such as high blood pressure, and overall health. More frequent social contact is linked to better overall health. Loneliness, on the flip side, is the feeling that we get from that lack of connection. I'm sure you're all aware that loneliness happens, or that feeling of loneliness can happen in a room full of people. So it's about having that true connection. And again, that's linked to poorer mental health, premature death, psychological distress, and life satisfaction. If we look more closely at people with MS and loneliness, what could make a person feel that lonely? And for the people with MS in this room, I'm sure that these relate. It's very variable and very unpredictable. It can be hard to describe to somebody else in your social network or your family. So the people that are in your life might not really get it. It can be exhausting because of the fatigue. You can feel like a passenger in your life. You can't fix it. And as a consequence of all those things, it's obviously going to impact your social network as well, and potentially reduced social connections. We look at peer support specifically. Obviously, peer support is a structured way that we can help create and facilitate that connection in whatever way that is appropriate for you. The research has got about 6 different ways that peer support is generally given by not-for-profits such as ours, and we do a few of these. Some of these will sound familiar. But if we look at peer support, the peer support formats across the globe, really, we have paid staff or volunteer-led. Either can work. It can be facilitated by trained volunteers or health professionals in a more facilitated topic discussed way. Phone support, so that one-to-one. Group support, both virtually and face-to-face. Web-based forums that can be moderated. And then there is also a community health worker model, which is quite popular in particularly third world countries. That's where a health professional would be going in and actually linking different parts of community. So right at the top, I talked about 3 of those benefits, and some of the others of benefits of peer support are increased self-efficacy and confidence. We would hope that as a consequence of peer support, people are more likely to act in their best interest. Increased social support networks, a reduction in the impact of stigma, knowing that there's other people that feel just like you. A decrease in fear. Someone might be very fearful of a new symptom, for example, or just the fact that they've got MS and they're not quite sure what's ahead of them. And an increased understanding of the condition and treatment options. And that is quite common, especially in groups where you are sharing those experiences, or I do this, perhaps that will work for you. There's no doubt that there are huge benefits to peer support, but not everybody does it. If you think about how many people have MS in our country compared to how many people do peer support, just at MS Plus as an example, not everybody does peer support. So there's obviously barriers and drivers for it. If we look at the barriers to why someone might not engage with peer support, lack of awareness that the peer support program even exists, may be one thing. The accessibility, potentially they want face-to-face and there isn't one in their town, as an example. Or they live in the middle of nowhere and they don't have a good Wi-Fi connection, so they can't go online. So there's obviously going to be some physical or technological barriers for some people. Fear or confidence, walking into a room of people you've never met before could be pretty intimidating, so they may be quite fearful to do that, or lack confidence to engage with new people. Another barrier can actually be their social support network. Some people have really amazingly strong families and social support networks, and they may not realise that the missing link there is someone else with lived experience. So they think that their social structure is very strong, but they are actually missing that bit, but they don't realise that because their friends and family are absolutely amazing, which is a fantastic thing for them. And obviously previous experience could be a barrier as well. If they've engaged with peer support, not had a fantastic experience, whether it's in MS or in another area of their life, and it was a bad experience, then they may be reluctant to re-engage. On the flip side, there are drivers. So why do people even decide to do peer support? Knowledge gaps is a big one. So especially when they're newly diagnosed, there's so much that you don't know, and a lot that your neurologist is not going to tell you either. Fear, intimidation or anxiety. So whilst that fear can be a barrier, it can also be a driver. I am so worried now. I have MS, I don't know what I don't know, and that may be a driver to peer support. Symptom changes is a big one. We see people that, particularly if they're having a relapse, or even if they're changing medications, they're more likely to engage with peer support, particularly that one-on-one. A new diagnosis, again, great driver, and a lack of social supports where they've recognised that there's that lack of social support in their life, and so they may seek out peer support in a more formal way, like what we provide. Can't see this, but it's an image of the theory of change, because as a health promoter, we tend to come back to that, and that's something that I've been really focused on here, is really understanding, do we have all the conditions, and can we continue to provide a program sustainably and responsibly, and provide that service to the thousands of people that we serve across the 4 states. So what this did say, and you'll get to see the boxes, is essentially I was looking at, what we would look at is the drivers and the barriers. So the things that I've just been through. What are the program options that we can offer? Do we have the skills to do it? Do we have the staff and the volunteer skills to deliver a program? Or if we don't, what do we need to do to get those? Do we have the internal and the external conditions to do so? So the internal, for example, is the organisation willing to resource it? External, is the environment there to support it? Actions, what do we want to see? In a group, as an example, we want shared experiences. We want encouragement between both our volunteer leaders, but also the other participants. We want behaviour modelling. Ultimately, you want people to come away from these experiences feeling good. Particularly our volunteer leader would be modelling good behaviour and shared problem solving. Generally, there's a reason someone comes to peer support. They've got a problem. They either don't know something or they're feeling lonely, whatever it is, it's a challenge in their life. They're coming to peer support for a solution. They may come for one visit, they may be ongoing month in, month out for years. So we hope that there's that shared problem solving and that they walk away with some sort of solution. Then we want to look at the outcomes. We want increased self-efficacy, as I mentioned before, improved social support, increased knowledge, increased confidence. They're the things that you would hope that are achieved. Then obviously there's those really, really long-term impacts, which are incredibly hard to manage because there's so many impacts on someone's life, not just peer support. It's a tiny little part of someone's life, but the research would be indicating, based on that theory of change, you're looking at those impacts. Improved health behaviours, decreased reliance on the health system, more help seeking, and improved perceived mental health. They're the kind of long-term outcomes we would be wanting to see. Now, we can't run a peer support program here at MS Plus without the volunteers. There are plenty of programs out there that work with paid staff or health professional run peer support. We do it via volunteering, and we have, I think we're sitting at around 200 volunteers in our peer support program. So what are we looking at when we're talking about our volunteers? What are the qualities that we would expect from those people who are representing their groups, their communities and MS Plus. So that role, someone needs to be empathetic, non-judgmental, compassionate, positive, motivated, obviously have lived experience, excellent communication skills, be reliable, be adaptable and be inclusive. You never know who's going to rock up to your group or who's going to be on the end of the phone. So they're the kind of things and the skills, qualities that we would expect from a volunteer. What does volunteering look like? Generally, it's at least 2 years post-diagnosis, either as a person living with MS or a carer or partner or someone supporting someone with MS. Over 18 years of age, have maturity, reliability, that non-judgmental attitude, be a positive representative, have the ability to be inclusive of people from all walks of life, cultures, backgrounds and beliefs, promote and encourage members to utilise MS Plus services and refer group members to MS Connect for further information or support as required. Have access to a reliable phone service or, on the flip side, internet if you're going to be running a virtual group. Participate in ongoing training as relevant, and they will report to the peer program lead, Kat, and also monthly reporting. So what does the experience look or feel like? What we would hope the experience would look like and feel like? We would hope that people get to meet new people and make new friends, that they would be meeting people with similar experiences, that they can share practical information, that they would receive advice or from symptom management tips from others, that they would hear about recommendations from services and products. This is a big one that happens locally in a community. I've got that really good GP down the road, or the pharmacist on the corner is awesome. You would expect that from a local peer support program when people are coming together to share what's going on in their community. And hopefully you find someone that you can develop a true friendship with. That would be like the ultimate goal. So looking at the peer support program that we deliver, we have three areas of peer support: our peer groups, peer talk, which is one-to-one phone support, and our peer links, which are 4-week shared learning groups. So our peer groups are both virtual and face-to-face, generally led by one volunteer, but sometimes there's 2. It might be shared leading, generally monthly meetings. There's small groups, some are 2-4 people, some much, much larger. We have one based in the south that I think we ended up having to split it. There were so many people that would go for dinner. And then they can be general, just you're there because you've got MS and you happen to live in the area, or it could be the mums group or the over 65s group or the men's group. So a few different ways, a few different groups there. If the group that's local to you doesn't fit, then there may be one that's only a few suburbs away that does. So accessing peer support peer groups, this had a slight change recently, but the actual program is running exactly the output, the number of groups, both face-to-face and virtual, is exactly the same. So you would submit an inquiry, just like you always did, by the website, for example, or calling Plus Connect. If you know exactly the group that you want to join, you might live up the road and decide you want to be at the Blackburn group. That's pretty easy because if you look at a map, for example, and I do have an image. If you haven't seen it yet, we do have a map now that's interactive. You can jump on there on the website, type in your suburb, and it will tell you exactly the groups that are available in your area, if you're looking for face-to-face, that is. So if that's the case, you call the Plus Connect team, for example. They can provide you with the email address of the volunteer group that you wanted to engage with, and then you can immediately send that email and contact that group straight away. Then that leader can get back to you, and then you join the group. So fairly straightforward. If you weren't not sure whether it's for you, didn't have one in your area, thinking, oh, maybe it's virtual, I don't really know what I want, then that inquiry will be sent on to Kat and she'll make the appropriate connections. I encourage you to get on the website, have a look at the map.
What's that under, Carly?
In the peer support, if you just type in peer support at the top, it'll pop up. Peer talk, which is our one-on-one phone support. can be one phone call or up to 8. If you needed more than 8, then we would probably go over 8. Doesn't happen too often though, but generally 1 to 8. And that's where your clients and peers are matched based on a particular concern or demographic or area of interest. In order to access that, again, online inquiry or via the Connect number, that inquiry will be sent to Kat, who will then give the person with MS a call, better understanding what they're hoping to get out of it, and then match you with appropriate volunteer. Might be somebody that's changing medications and wants someone that's already on that medication, so she might match based on that. An appointment will be made, and then you get to talk to your peer. Lastly, we have peer links, which are our 4-week facilitated programs. They are pre-scheduled topics each week. There's guest speakers that come, I think, 3 out of the 4 weeks. And some of the topics that would be included are about MS, symptom management as an example, emotional wellbeing. For our working peer link, insurance and superannuation is a topic. There will be supports and service, navigation information, and then of course lots of opportunity to share tips on living well over the 4-week program. Many of those groups, people tend to then go into, many of those peer links, people then go into groups, their choice. This is a streamlined registration process now as well. It used to be you would call, connect, a service request would be made, someone would call you at some point, and then you might be made to put on the list. Now it's all an online booking, so you literally just register online. You'll be popped into the group. You get to pick which program you want to go in. You'll have an email from Kat or call if you don't answer your email that just says, just want to confirm you definitely want to do that. These are quite small groups and are necessary. They need to be small in order to have that shared learning and shared discussion. And the last one, we had 46 people register for the program. So she did have to go through and, are you likely to come? Some people are like, oh no, I didn't realise it was 4 weeks, I can't do it. So she'll get those off the list. And then we'll end up with the, final 10 to 15, depending on the group, going through and engaging in a peer link. Lastly, one of the comments from the feedback from our very last peer link was, this was by far the most valuable online MS forum I've ever been involved in. Such a fantastic quote, and Katarina does such a remarkable job facilitating the peer links, and that's testament to her work in that space. The value of peer learning and that shared learning and peer connection in an education setting such as a peer link cannot be underestimated, and that's definitely been reflected in the other programs that we've both always delivered. For example, Facets, the fatigue management course that we've been delivering for quite a few years now, but also the 2 of our newer ones, Navigate Living Well with the new diagnosis of MS and Navigate MS Family and Friends, where we really have taken that necessary peer support and peer shared learning and discussion that happens over time in those programs as well. That's it on peer support from me. I feel like there's going to be questions. There's going to be questions. So hopefully I hit on those slight little nuanced changes. So as you mentioned, there's some changes in peer support, but fundamentally not. The program is being delivered. I know there was talk that it was just going to be virtual. We have the same amount of face-to-face groups as we ever have, and we plan to continue running those face-to-face groups. Obviously, we have a smaller team delivering the program. We have noticed that the number of communications that go out to our clients is very large in some instances, depending on the group that you're likely, the group that you're likely in. So we will be doing, we do promotion of phone support, peer links and groups. And to Kate's point about the carers one, that it is important that we promote our groups, but given we have so many of them, it can be quite challenging for us to be promoting every single individual group in its own right. So that's something that we need to pace to ensure that we're not bombarding people with information. So it's on the list, Kate, but it just needs to be put in amongst all of the other things that we're promoting as well. Moving on to questions.
Yeah, I might start off with a few questions. I mean, one of my first questions was going to be about promotion.
Yep.
How, for example, is the existence of the peer support program promoted to newly diagnosed people who join MS?
Yes. So they would receive, if they're on the distribution list, to receive any EDM in touch or in social media or whatever it is. So I just make sure that peer support's in that. So if there's, I think the recent Inform, I think there was an article on I can't remember which one it was, there's been a lot, but it would be a focus on phone support, for example. Or socially, if you looked on our socials recently, we've been promoting peer links. So everybody would have that general communication about the programs that we run.
And what you've described is rather different to what I think I've been told about the program being wholly online. I mean, you're saying that somebody can phone up and Katerina or somebody will contact them and talk to them about the existence of the program and where to find information about, you know, individual groups. Certainly, the impression I'd got as a facilitator, because we've been asked recently to establish generic emails, so that, as I understood it, it relied on people looking at the website, identifying that there's a peer support program, finding it on the map, and then sending a connect wish to the generic email for the group. And there was no human intervention in this process at all, that it's an entirely online process.
No, so definitely not. The vast majority of people that seek peer support are really not going to know what they want or need.
No.
So for those that do, and we have had quite a few people recently just saying, I want to join, so I saw that you've got some such and such group, let's call it the Blackburn group. I can see that you've got the Blackburn group, I want to join that. For those people, we have streamlined that process. Call Connect or an inquiry, if they choose to do so, they receive the email for that group, say Blackburn Peer Support at Gmail or whatever, and then they can make that direct contact. For those that don't, again, inquiry, they just call Connect. Connect may be at a workshop that with them and just say, oh, you want X, they've got a descriptor of each of the groups, and then they can get that email address directly to that person to make contact themselves. If they don't know, then Kat will give them a call. We implemented that change, first of all, at streamlining administration, there's no doubt about it. Also speeding time. With all of our team, even when we had the 3 team members, they were all part-time, there could be up to a week, we noticed, between the Connect getting the call, a service request getting to the right coordinator, before that person would call. Then the person on the other end wouldn't answer the phone that day because they happened to be at work. Then we would call again, or send an email, and ultimately you might speak to someone a week later. And potentially the moment's gone, the moment has passed. So this way we're hoping that if you are acting, so something's going on in your life that has prompted, I need to act, I want to engage with peer support, you could technically call Connect, get an email address and be emailing you, Nigel, for example, that afternoon.
The other thing I was going to ask was, I'd been given the impression that no new groups were going to be established.
That's also not true. We are just about to kick a new one off in New South Wales, and I know the carers one was just July, August, I feel like. There was talk about that. It's more about managing volume. So we're dealing with 200 volunteers and obviously lots of groups, and we want that all to be a quality service. So we do sometimes get someone saying, I want to do a group. Just say, I want to do a group in Mitcham, let's say. And we have had zero demand for people asking for that. So we would then be monitoring, is there enough people for us to create a group? And that would be just felt over time. And as I say, we've got another new one that's just about to start in New South Wales.
Other questions?
So you're saying that we have one of our advisory council members who is very keen to set up one in Hamilton. She has the support, she has everything. And when she inquired, she was told there's nothing happening. So if she inquires again now, she's got it all in place, and there is demand there.
Yeah, if there was demand, then it's something we would need to look at for sure. Like any program, ours is probably one of the biggest peer support programs I've ever come across. So we've got to manage volume, but if there's demand for groups, then there's no reason why we wouldn't.
There's always demand in rural.
Yeah, there's no reason why we wouldn't.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you say there's 200 volunteers, is that throughout Australia?
The 4
So
states.
how many's in Victoria? Have you developed for that?
I have that, but not in front of me. But it would be a lot.
Like 40, 50, like up to 40 groups, I think, here.
40, there's
Yeah.
40 groups.
It's a lot.
Because I saw on the map is a lot of dots. I looked like 30, 40 groups around Victoria somewhere.
There's a
So
lot.
if you want to know a list of all the groups, how do you get a list of all the peer support groups?
Yeah, so there's two ways. Obviously,
It's quite impossible. Because
yeah, there is actually a PDF, downloadable PDF on the website by state, which has every single group in it.
you go peer support on the internet.
Yeah, just if you just go into MS Plus, and just even if you just search in peer support in the little search bar, the peer support program page will come up.
Under MS Plus.
Yes, sorry, yes. Yeah.
I think you can forward the list which I sent you yesterday to
Mm,
Michelle. I've got a question because you mentioned at the beginning that person who's gonna establish that group, if you decide to establish the new group, you've got pretty like full work like CEO quality needs for the person who's gonna run this, this voluntary group. So if you finally establish the group, how you support that volunteer to run the group?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think the
Because
main...
this is, I know this for free, but how you support like that person, apart of that he asking that person to do the reporting a lot of stuff, so how you a little bit give support to that person?
Yeah, so Kat's number one job is pretty much supporting volunteers, and we get calls about all sorts of things through a week. So if a volunteer is feeling unsure, if there is an incident, which sometimes can happen in a group, potentially someone said something and they're concerned about them, that Kat is always available. If she's not available, then the call will end up with me so that we can make sure that we're answering any of your questions, or if you decide you needed training about a specific thing. I know we rolled out all of that mental health, so I think the suicide information last year. If we're seeing a particular issue, then we would send that out via everybody. But it's really, I think the support is very personal, so it's about being able to call mostly Kat, but obviously me if there's if Kat's not available. Regarding the reporting, it's as simple as 4 questions: how many people came? Was there anyone that knew? How many hours did you spend? So super easy.
No, the rapport probably, yeah. I just was thinking because I'm attending 2 groups,
Mhm.
and both coordinators, I don't want to mention the group, they say they have no support. They was trained, dumped, and that's it.
Okay. Well, they should definitely give Kat a call if that's the case, and reach out and see if, and ask a question or.
Because they even didn't know about the changes.
Well, I think because the changes have been so minimal, the changes have been communicated with every single person.
But at least they should know that new person they have the
Yes.
The new person who they have to contact. They have no idea about the
I'm
new
not
person.
sure why that's the case. We sent out 2 different communications specifically regarding Kat being the program lead, and also that there was one like introducing the change essentially. And then we put in the peer news, so we have a new newsletter that's gone out that we talked about it. So I'm not sure if they're not on
Maybe-
that list for some reason. They can certainly reach out, and
That
I'm
was
happy to
probably
forward it.
Maybe not fully explained, because I remember now just recalling one of these coordinators said he was very upset that there's no coordinator in Victoria, that is somebody running from New South Wales, running Victorian groups, and the person was concerned that how the person New South Wales know anything about the Victorian groups, what we need, or what is so far, kind of, it's so remote, so kind of,
Yeah.
virtual, that it's hard to believe it. So they thought, okay, it doesn't matter, we have no support at all now.
No, I think
Maybe there was not enough kind of an explanation, encouragement. I don't know. The wording was weird. I don't know.
well, I thought it was clear, but if it's not to that person, then they can certainly give us a call. As far as running the program, any of our staff could run that. Kat living in New South Wales doesn't mean she can't adequately support a team in Victoria, no different to I run programs that run over 4 states. And even going back to the previous staff members, our Tasmanian staff member actually oversaw some of our Victorian groups. So her location, I think, is irrelevant. I think that she can perfectly support regardless. And the needs of each of the volunteer groups and the needs of the leaders should be the same. They're going to have similar issues or challenges or whatever that she can they should certainly reach out to the program. I would just encourage, if anyone's got a question or is concerned, just to call us. Like we're on the phone. I'm happy to talk to anyone. Like Nigel called us and we organised a meeting and we had a chat. If anything's unclear, just reach out. As I mentioned, I felt like the communication regarding peer support was adequate. If that's wrong, then I am happy to send out more. But we did do the peer news with some information and then a specific email regarding that change as well.
And do we contact you, Kylie, through MS Plus Connect? Or,
you can,
for example, Katarina, we've got a direct phone number for her.
Yeah, either. So if you don't have mine, you might have mine at the end of an email. Okay. So first, obviously, you're more than welcome to contact me. Anything very peer support specific, like I want to do a group, whatever, just call Kat because I'm just going to send it to her anyway to do with peer support.
So she's not full-time, is she?
No, she's 3 days. Yeah, so again, if you need an answer today, then feel free to call me, obviously, or call Connect because they can get hold of me. Yep.
And I think that's, I've just asked a couple of people, I don't think, or I know that information did not go out to everybody and it wasn't clear. And it's all very well saying, call Kat or whatever. People don't necessarily know that and they're not always proactive. So maybe there could be an updated communication just to remind everybody. Because I don't know what days Kat works, but somebody might leave it and they aren't aware of that. I know it's probably only the minority, but it's that minority that.
I mean, I'm open to other ways to communicate at this stage.
I've got a shocking idea. Shocking idea. That Kate.
Groups to say you're available.
On the original email that went out explained everything. That went to every single peer support, 200 of them.
After Kim left or before Kim left? 'Cause
After.
I didn't know anything, I don't think.
After, so everyone got that. Well, everybody was sent that based on the up-to-date email lists that we had. So a little over 200 volunteers received that. Then we followed up because we wanted to make sure that we had really consistent communication with a peer news. So now one peer news has gone out, the new peer news we're in the middle of writing, so that'll go out shortly, and that will be every 3 months, just to remind everybody this is what's going on. Might be a fun fact, I don't know, I haven't written the one for this month, but yeah, so that there's updated information more consistently. Not to mention, you also receive a monthly email from Kat reminding you to put your stats in and provide any other information.
Does that go to the peer support coordinator of the group?
Which one?
Well, I belong to the Coburg group.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you communicate? Do you send this to this main person at Coburg? Because I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it should be going to whatever the leaders. Are you the volunteer leader?
No.
Okay, it will go to the volunteer leader. Yeah, sorry, yes. So it went to all of the volunteer leaders. We don't have a record of every single participant in the groups, so we can't communicate directly.
I don't think she receives anything, to be honest. I'll have to check.
Yeah, I'd ask her to reach out.
So I've
we've
got-
got about 20 in the group,
Yeah, great.
and there's no, we lost Kim and then there's nothing, but that's no anything.
Well, she should be getting information, like as I just mentioned, for peer news is a good example, let's just say.
I didn't get peer news.
I don't remember ever having seen a peer news, I must admit.
Yeah.
I didn't get peer news.
Yeah,
No.
Okay.
I think
1, 2, 3 haven't received.
I don't re-
Have you? No.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll check the AGM and see and make sure it's going out correctly.
so this is coming back to my shocking idea to make golden standard, and because it kind of seems to be big change for peer support group running everything from news, at least for Victoria group. Or people maybe don't understand. Anyway, just grab a phone and call every coordinator and explain the changes by phone. I know this is very big hassle,
Yeah,
but if
great idea.
you've got 200 groups, let's say 5 phones per day only, so it only takes 40 days, so 1.5 months, and everybody will be, and I assure you that person who got this personal call from that national coordinator to you explaining what's happening, the person will be woo over the moon what's going on and will be more willing to run the group and be encouraged even more, to be honest. I know this is probably mind-boggling idea, but I think it's a very good idea. Because as far as I see now, it's like big misunderstanding what's going on.
It does appear to me that there is a
Writing,
misunderstanding.
People reading, but maybe people don't understanding, or they don't want to understand, or feeling whatever they feeling. I'm old-fashioned salesman. Phone call solve many problems.
I agree, Martin.
Anybody else, any questions?
I'm probably on the same way. I run the Outer Eastern dinner group
Yes.
with Jane King, and I brought up at our last MSEC meeting, I'm also on MSEC, but since Kim has left, we were getting on average 3 to 4 inquiries every month. The last month we've had none.
Mm-hmm.
We heard
Yeah.
either. We heard
And,
nothing.
yeah, and it just seems strange that considering there's a whole lot of people supposedly being diagnosed with MS, that all of a sudden our inquiries have dried up.
Yeah, I think that is probably because we've been concentrating on making sure that we can get things to be running sustainably and responsibly and being able to continue this. So our attention has definitely been on making sure we can continue running all of the groups the way we have been. And as I mentioned before, I've been looking at the communications out to try and figure out how we're going to streamline that. So whilst we are definitely continuing to promote the groups, there is less very specific, like join the one in the Outer East, join the one down in the South. So I think certainly
it's just a communication thing, just to try and keep everyone in the loop of what's going on, because I think that's been the hardest. I've had no peer support communication at all. So
no email whatsoever,
No.
and not your monthly stats email that goes out. We need to double check the email addresses. I think. Yeah.
So,
I think you need to check.
This is the
all
reason why
those.
call phone probably could push forward to at least clearing up what like establishing what do you have now to move forward, yes, because otherwise you don't see the, like a starting point to make a simple like this will improve or improvement, because to be honest, in my opinion, do you know what is the customer relationship manager software?
Ours, Salesforce.
Yeah, whatever, using Salesforce, yeah?
Yeah.
Beautiful software. You can even create a bot there who answering every call from and giving the proper information, yeah? So you don't have to have thousands of people answering the phone, but as long as you know what big volume of the answer or of group you have, yeah? And how you communicate with them. Because as you see, only as like 5 people and everybody like in oblivion is kind of very weird, and in my opinion, it's kind of showing that it's probably a bigger problem out there than even we see.
Yeah, it's certainly concerning that you haven't received it when I know I've sent it out of my email address. So, or Kat did. So that
Maybe some email go to spam even addresses sometimes. Unfortunately, this is what Google doing other.
A lot.
You can avoid that one. So it actually phone calls solve the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd strongly suggest you also check your spam, just in case that last news went, because we obviously want you to be getting peer news. It's a way for us to communicate with you all. Peer news.
And it's from you or from?
It'll come from the peer support email
So I don't
address.
believe I got
I
that
think.
either.
Yeah.
I had another question. You mentioned at your start there are some peer support programs that are run by volunteers. Have you looked at the possibility of involving volunteers at Katarina's level?
Not at CAT's level. We do have peer support volunteers supporting administration, but no, I haven't looked at that.
No. And what was the A?
Because maybe that one.
Oh, I know, there was
person already
yeah,
not
there was
enough to run that kind of what's happening now.
another
So,
question I had, and it's something I have discussed with Katarina, the information request, the monthly report request.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't provide for facilitators who facilitate more than one group.
No, they'd need to do one form per group.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, I'm involved with two groups,
Mm-hmm.
and I put in the report for myself and my fellow coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I'm putting in 4 reports every month. That's a big demand. I really think it would help if it could cope with facilitators who facilitate more than one group.
Yep.
And
There's multiple entries.
And multiple entries, because at the moment
Yeah,
it
I can
doesn't.
definitely look at that.
No, it doesn't do that
Yeah.
at the moment.
The reason we did it, and that's I'll definitely look at that. The reason we moved this all to online is that the previous system was very inefficient because we would have to, first of all, it gets lost in email. Anything in email is not a great way of managing data. So now we can run a report and instantly see who has, who hasn't, what's missing. So this should be technically a much smoother way of entering your data. You could do it on your phone in a few minutes, but I'll definitely take that on notice.
But haven't you listed all the people that attend these peer support groups?
No, we don't.
No.
Nothing. Which I don't think's good enough.
Yeah, we never have, never.
You don't.
No. And the reason for that is because if we think about how it's been done historically and is still done today, when someone approaches us, calls us and says we want to join the Cheltenham group, and so we can make that connection. The volunteer ends up talking to you, for example, when you go to the Cheltenham group. You may go just that one time and hate it. You may go that time and love it. You may go for 3 months and then never go again. So we've never had that follow-up to really track, and for that client to say, I went once or I went 3 times and now I don't want to go. So we've never done that follow-up. And what we're actually hoping by doing the reporting the way we've done it is to better gauge at least the numbers attending. So now, say it's the Cheltenham group, that volunteer leader can be, say, 10 people came and 1 person was new, as an example, to get a better feel for how many groups are actually functioning. Because we have this big number of groups, I think it's 100 and 120, whatever it is, but we don't really have a gauge for how many people are attending. And it would be lovely by the end of the year to be able to say, you know what, we have this many people consistently receiving peer support services, because at the moment we don't. Historically, we've never known.
And each month, do you suggest topics of conversation?
No, we leave that to the volunteers to, and some.
That's what Kim would do before. Kim Redcheck would suggest, each month a topic that the group could discuss.
Not always. No,
Not always.
It's left up to the groups. Yeah, because our dinner group do not want guest speakers.
Yeah, and each group is very personal. We have groups that are just catching up for dinner and may never talk about MS. It's just more of a social group. Other groups that might want a guest speaker, for example, or that are driven by the volunteers and the group themselves. It's very, very personal.
Anyway, I think we're going to have to wind this up, but I imagine we've given Kylie a clear indication of some of the concerns that exist.
And I hope that you're feeling slightly reassured that the peer support program continues. I know there was some talk that there was, I don't know who from really, but that there was this massive change. But I hope that I've reassured everybody that it's not. There are some changes, some administrative changes for the most part. We will continue. Kat and I will continue to work together to try and to improve things as we go within our resources, and as you said, that great example of things that we can look at. But thank you so much all for your time. Feel free to share my email address. Otherwise, call Connect And then, as I say, anything peer support, very specific, fundamental, operational, just call Kat and she'll do her best to answer.
I'm going to have some questions, but I won't ask them now. But about the gym, who should I address those to?
Oh, good question. I'll find out.
But you can only ask a question about the gym.
I might not be able to answer it, but you can ask.
Just loosely speaking, how much does it get used?
Oh, in all honesty, I wouldn't know.
Is it an hour a week? Is it
No, I think it would be a lot more than that because the physios are all in there. Use it for their clients, but I have no idea what proportion, unfortunately.
You're all, are you?
I'm upstairs.
You are here
Yeah, but
permanently?
yes, yeah.
Thank you. And with that, I will draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.
And announce lunch.
And announce lunch, right. Lunch is immediately opposite.